Hello, everybody. A wonderful, warm welcome as always from Bob DiGiacomo, Destiny Road and Intentional Growth Coaching, coming to you with another one of my broadcasts that deals with leadership and all points towards the journey of a lifetime. The whole purpose with Destiny Road is you are just that one step away from the journey of your lifetime. And with that, I have an additional story to give you today, which is basically around 3 feet from gold. You may recall about a week or so ago, I published two podcasts, part one and part two, of Acres of Diamonds. Now, if you haven't heard those or watched those, you can either go to my YouTube channel under Robert DiGiacomo, or you can go to any number of podcast sites, but I'll just mention iTunes for the sake of it. And you would go to Intentional Growth Coaching and they will pop up. And be sure to subscribe while you're there. That way when I publish a new YouTube, you'll always know about it. And when I publish a new podcast, you'll always know about it because you don't want to miss any of that. But today I'm dealing with go for the gold. Go for the gold. How often have you heard that remark when involved in something that had some sort of a finish line? Have you ever dreamed of being on the top tier or the podium as that gold medal was being presented to you and the national anthem of your country was being played in the background? Have you ever been told that if you're going to do something, then you should give it your all, your very best, and go all out? In other words, to go for the gold. Well, back in 1908, a known writer was chosen by Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world at that particular time, to undertake a very special project to interview the most influential and wealthy leaders to determine the common denominator among them for attaining success. Now, that young man was Napoleon Hill. I don't know how many of you have heard of Napoleon Hill. And the book that grew from those interviews evolved into the book Think and Grow Rich, the Bible of personal development and the 20th best-selling book in the history of the world. Over the past few years, I've made a number of references in my posts about the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I've also quoted Napoleon Hill quite often on my radio show, which is every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Which is called Destiny Road. If you want to know more about that, contact me, but you certainly can go to ibgr.network and you'll find that. Nevertheless, the majority of my blog readers, podcast, and radio listeners still not taken the time to read this phenomenal, life-changing book. I know how you feel. I used to feel the same way too, but here's what I found out. I used to promote Think and Grow Rich on a regular basis, but I never dove into it back then as I should have. But that changed, and I've since switched dove in head first into the book, and I've studied it. I've become a student of the book. I have mentors that have taught and trained me all about the book. It is one of the courses that I do actually offer. And I decided to share one of my favorite lessons from this book, and I hope this lesson inspires you to persistently pursue your dreams and also to read the entire book. In the beginning of Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill tells a story about a gentleman named R.U. Darby. Darby was a millionaire when Mr. Hill interviewed him in preparation to write this book. However, the story Darby shared with Mr. Hill was about a defining moment in his life when he was much poorer and younger that taught him to understand the power of persistence. The power of persistence. So here's the story. Darby's uncle had gone west to Colorado during the gold rush days and eventually came across gold ore. In the need of mining machinery to dig up more gold, Darby's uncle returned home to Maryland to secure financing money for the machinery. Now, while there, he was also able to enlist Darby's help. Now, once financing was secured, Darby and his uncle returned to Colorado to work the mine. Now, initially things were going well. The first remnants of gold they discovered were shipped to the smelter, and returns provided a promise that could have one of Colorado's richest mines. A few more gold discoveries like the first could clear Darby and his uncle of all their debt and leave them very rich. Now, needless to say, they were hopeful, and as they continued to drill, then the unbelievable happened. You guessed it. The vein of gold that they had been successfully drilling just disappeared. Now, confident that they would find more gold, Darby and his uncle continued to drill day after day, week after week, with no luck. Every day of drilling drove them deeper and deeper into debt until finally they decided to quit. They sold the drilling machinery to a nearby junkman and returned home. The junkman, however, wasn't convinced that this mine had no gold, so he hired a mining engineer to get an expert opinion before breaking down all that drilling machinery so that he could entail and sell it. The engineer's findings, though, were shocking. He found that the vein of gold that Darby and his uncle had been seeking was just 3 feet from where they had stopped drilling. The junkman decided to continue drilling, and that is exactly where the gold was found, just 3 feet away. The junkman ended up taking millions of dollars in gold from Darby's former mine because he was smart enough to know what he didn't know and sought expert counsel. So, as noted, Darby eventually became a millionaire later in life and attributes his tenacity and persistence in doing so to this very event. Now, there are many lessons to be had from the story, but what I'm getting at today is this: that most people give up right away before the gold because it gets too hard. And now lately, I've been seeing many of my clients begin to have breakthroughs. Their limiting beliefs get shattered and their sales begin to skyrocket. In other words, they go quantum. Watching my clients overcome their limiting beliefs is one of the most exciting parts of doing what I do. Now, everyone wants to be on the other side of that quantum leap. Not the TV show, but reality. But the challenges always come first, and they must be experienced if you're going to come out on the other side with a victory. In other words, sometimes that last 3 feet can be really hard. As soon as you begin to move forward, when you're only 3 feet from gold, there will be an obstacle. Usually this is a test. Will you overcome, or will you succumb to this temporary roadblock and give up? One of the most common causes of failure is the habit of quitting when one is overtaken by temporary defeat. Every person is guilty of this mistake, and at one time or another. An uncle of R.U. Darby was caught by gold fever in the gold rush days and went west to dig and grow rich. Darby is one of a small group of fewer than 50 men who went on to sell more than $1 million in life insurance annually. And he owed this stickability to the lesson he learned from his quitability in the gold mining business. You see, before success comes in any man's life, they are sure to meet with much temporary defeat and perhaps some failure. When defeat overtakes that person, the easiest and most logical thing to do is quit. And that's exactly what the majority of us do. We quit. More than 500 of the most successful men in the USA have ever known told the author their greatest success came just one step beyond the point at which defeat would have overtaken them. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes great delight in tripping when one's success is almost within reach. Now, my clients all share what it was like when they overcame their limiting beliefs, their last 3 feet from gold, those obstacles that they overcame. All took place within the battlefield of their minds. As soon as they replaced those limiting beliefs with new ones, they struck gold. At the beginning of any sort of quantum leap, rather than pressing into it and going along for the ride, most people stop the momentum in its tracks and slink back into the comfort zone, that gremlin on the shoulder, loud in the ear. Quit, quit, quit. Ironically, the comfort zone is usually where we are the least comfortable and where we desire the most change. One of the main weaknesses of mankind is the average man's familiarity with the word impossible. He knows all the rules which will not work. He knows all the things which cannot be done. Failure comes to those who indifferently allow themselves to become failure conscious. Now, the object of this book is to help all who seek it to learn the art of changing their minds from failure consciousness to success consciousness. And as this title has come to mind, I begin to reminisce about where this Go for the Gold title probably came. And of course, my brain kicked in. I went back many, many years to the earlier days of my life. I started to remember the days when I used to go to a place called the Jolly Roger. And some year later to another place called Adventureland. I grew up on Long Island, New York. And my generation would immediately know where these places are and what I'm talking about. And I love going to these places as there were games and arcades to play, not to mention the awesome hot dogs and sauerkraut. You have to be a New Yorker to understand what I'm talking about. Because you didn't grow up on Long Island and not like dogs and kraut. But the thing that always caught my attention was the highlight of the visit was that ride on the merry-go-round, also known as the carousel. It was always located in the center of the room, or if at a carnival, the center of everything. There were seats and model horses and other animals to climb for that awesome ride that followed. But horses were always placed on the outer rim of the merry-go-round, and this was for a reason. Once you were strapped on and the ride began and the classic familiar clanging of the bell and the music of the calliope would start playing and the momentum and the speed of the merry-go-round, round and round would begin, all the animals on the horses would go up and down in complete symphony and harmony to the music. It was at that point, though, that the horses on the outer side, you could reach out each time you made it to a certain point, extend your arm and grab for that ring, that gold ring that was there for you to gain. But it was no easy feat. And remember that the horses were going up and down as you went round and round. But your goal was to reach out and grab for that ring each time you came around. And depending upon the number of rings you grabbed, or if you got a brass ring, because yeah, they mix some brass rings in there, would determine a prize you would could receive. Now this was developed back between the 1890s and the 1920s, a century ago. There are still working carousels out there, and the term or phrase grab for the gold ring evolved into go for the gold. Don't let it be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, but it could indeed be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That is why I say the journey of 1,000 miles and that of a single mile require that you take that first step. That is why I use that phrase that says the road to your destiny awaits. You are only one step away. I mean, if you're going to do something, why would you not seek to do your best? Why would you not seek to give it your all? Why would you not desire to go for the gold? Anything and everything worth doing is worth doing right. And yes, there will be ups and downs, just as the ride on the merry-go-round. Yes, you will sometimes feel as if you're traveling in a circle. Again, as that merry-go-round shows us, Yes, you will need to reach out and stretch, and maybe stretch like you've never stretched before. And you may surely feel that those rings are out of your reach, but in reality you must reach a little bit more than you've ever done before, for the victory of the gold is there waiting for you. So as I close here, I've got just a few questions. On what are you about to give up on? Have you invested your time and or your money into receiving expert advice and counsel? Are you stopping 3 feet from gold? Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. More gold has been mined from the thoughts of men than has ever been taken from the earth. Whether the glass is half full or half empty depends on where it began, where you began. Now, there is a difference in being committed. Neglecting to broaden your view has kept some of you from achieving what you want. Work your strengths. Seek counsel, not opinions. Never make decisions in a valley. A dream is just a dream until it's written down, and then it becomes a goal. A quitter never wins, and a winner never quits. So I conclude by encouraging you today to make a decision to reach and stretch and go and grow for that gold. Remember, the road to your destiny awaits. You're only one step away. The memories that will indeed last a lifetime. If you haven't yet sought out a coach, reach out to me. Let's talk about it. Your first step awaits. Until next time, Bob DiGiacomo, Intentional Growth Coaching and Destiny Road. I'll look forward to seeing you soon. All the best.